a different balance on yours.
Women rely on fashion magazines on matters of style, and to find out just how many, a CBS poll asked women if they had ever bought clothing or changed something about the way they dress based on what they have seen in a fashion magazine. A sizable 40% said yes, while 59% said no. One of the most influential style setters for years has been Vogue magazine. And last November, Vogue took on a new style of its own. Its cover showed a smiling model with a $10,000 Christian Lacroix jacket and a $50 pair of blue jeans and a bare midriff. Later issues also showed models who were young, friendly, perky. The woman behind the new look at Vogue is Anna Wintour, who's been the editor-in-chief since last summer, and she joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, your magazine, quite a few other magazines, changed their look, let alone the mastheads.
Well, I think that the focus has obviously been on the covers because that's such a signal of what's inside the magazine. But I think there has been a loosening up of fashion in the last couple of years. It's become more accessible. It's become a little bit more relaxed. And obviously the cover, which is what everybody focuses on, is, sort of the symbol for that.
Well, let's go through the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on in the 70s in the world of fashion?
Well, I think in the world of fashion, in terms of America, what we saw in the 70s was the beginning of the recognition of the American designer in terms of the sportswear, which I think the American fashion is so well known for. When we saw the birth of designers like Calvin Klein, Donna Karan, although then she was then at Anne Klein, Ralph Lauren was beginning, and I think there became an awareness on an international level of American fashion that we hadn't seen before. And I think that was in response to women really going into the workforce in a way that they never had been before.
In the 80s, that everyone got used to looking at other countries for fashion?
I think then we turned into a much more, I think, fashion is on such an international scale at the moment that I think women became more aware of fashion on all sides of the Atlantic. I mean, it's when we saw this enormous interest in the Japanese designers for the first time. I don't know if you remember, but it was sort of bizarre with holes and cutouts and everybody looking a bit freaky, but and we saw people turning to that. We saw people turning to Italy in a way that they hadn't before, and it became a huge sort of melting pot of fashion, which I think is one of the things that makes it so exciting today.
So now, what do you see in the 90s? Because aren't these magazines, including Vogue, aren't they getting ready for the 90s?
Well, people always ask you that. I think the wonderful thing about fashion is that you can't really say what people are going to want or be wearing in the 90s. I think, it depends on what new designers come along. It depends on what new fabrics are found. Obviously women are looking for something different out of their clothes now. They want to be dressed in a way that's appropriate. They have much less time. Most of them are working. But they still want fashion to be fun, to make them feel good, to make them, look terrific. In terms of what we're trying to do, we just try and be, I think everybody realizes that nobody can dictate to women anymore, that whole concept is totally old-fashioned, and we try and edit for her to help her to show what's out there.
How do you do that? How do you decide what should be in a magazine?
With a lot of angst. So what happens is that every season we see all the collections. We go to Paris, we go to Italy, we look at the American collections. We sort of inundate ourselves in fashion for about a month. And after that, we sit down and we really discuss what we've seen, what we like, what we think is important. We talk to the stores.
How do you decide, for instance, what is important? Is it what's going to catch on, or what you think American women should be exposed to?
Well, it's a bit of both. I mean, you look to the designers that are sort of on the cutting edge of fashion, whether it's a Lacroix or a Calvin Klein, and you try and look for the points that are going to filter down to a slightly more accessible level. And you try and be first. You try and say, okay, we believe in flowers, or we believe in colors, or we're seeing a lot of cutouts, or whatever it may be. And maybe we show things that a lot of our readers might write in and say, oh, that's a little extreme, I could never wear it. But it starts them thinking. And then 6 months later, you'd be amazed. They're in that outfit. It's just a question of getting used to it.
So in the old days where really fashion magazines would say you have to buy a Bill Blass or an Oscar de la Renta or a certain designer or a name, but now you're saying these are the looks you should go for, or these are...
Well, women are much too smart for that. I mean, I think what's so great today is that there's so much choice. And maybe you're a Donna Karan customer, or maybe you're a Jeffrey Bean customer, or maybe you like Ralph Lauren. I mean, what's out there is an enormous amount of choice. So we try to sift through that choice.
But for a lot of women can't afford that. You're talking about big price tags.
Absolutely, but then they're the ones that have the influence on the less expensive market. The less expensive designers or the private labels or whatever it may be, the stores, they look at what those designers are doing, they interpret it at a much less expensive price.
Why don't you reflect that?
We do. I mean, if you look in our April issue, We have an entire lead on what we're calling the working girl's wardrobe, which, you know, was kind of taken off from that movie. I mean, I don't think there's an outfit over there that costs $300. So, I mean, I think that we're very aware of that. But obviously, it's more likely that the cutting edge of fashion will come from the big designer than from what you're going to find in your shopping mall.
So you're pretty much giving people a 4-month notice because there is a trickle-down theory.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Anna Wintour, thank you so much for joining us. It's now 22 after the hour. Harry?
Still ahead, the sign says sale, but is it? Consumer Reporter, Aaron Moriarty, on when sales really are sales.